Brakes should feel smooth and operate properly. Finally, check the emergency brake and make sure all controls are back in their neutral position. If everything checks out, you're ready to go. If not, if you find a problem or suspect one, get it checked and corrected before you operate the truck. Up to this point, everything we've talked about involved the design and condition of the forklift. That's only part of your job as an operator. The other part deals with moving the load, or more precisely, the physics of the load. Things like balance, stability, capacity, and visibility. These are the things that separate the top flight operator from the rest. The professional knows that every load and every situation is different, and that knowledge and judgment are required on every lift and carry. The design of the forklift demands it. Think of the base as a triangle. Let's call it a stability triangle. The straight edge is the axle of the drive wheels. It supports the weight of the load and acts like the center support on a teeter-totter. The point of the triangle opposite the front edge is the steering point. Even if the lift truck you use has 4 wheels, its base still acts like a triangle, with the point being the middle of the steering axle. Keeping the downward force of the load, its center of gravity, within this stability triangle keeps the forklift stable and the load from crashing to the floor. Allowing the load to move outside the stability triangle makes both truck and load less stable, makes it subject to tipping, rolling, or dropping the load. In practice, this means your forklift and load become less stable whenever the load is above the ground, when you're turning, on slopes either front to back or side to side, when tilting the load forward or backward or side to side. Size and shape of the load, as well as where you carry the load on the forks, also affect stability. A compact load carried all the way back on the forks is closer to the drive axle, to the base of the stability triangle. A load, even if it's within forklift capacity, moved to the edge of elevated forks, can tip the forklift forward so you can't steer. A sharp turn can tilt a load, spilling it or pulling the lift over sideways. The same goes for driving on a slope. An uneven platform can tilt the load and roll the lift. What happens is that downward force encourages forklift stability, but shifting force, either to the side, front, or back, shifts outside the triangle, making your lift unstable. As a professional, your job is to constantly judge your load to make sure you keep the center of gravity, the downward force of the load, within the stability triangle. Knowing your machine is the best way to learn how to do this with every load. The operator's manual tells you the capacity of the forklift and explains how this changes depending on the load you are carrying. It also explains how attachments alter the stability and capacity of your forklift truck. Your job is to know your machine and know your load before you attempt to move it. Is the load well within the capacity limits of your forklift? Will its shape and the downward force of its weight affect your stability or your ability to see where you're going? You may need to split up the load to reduce its weight, or drive in reverse to increase your visibility, or both. You also need to know where you're taking the load. Will the route pose hazards? What kind of turns will you negotiate? How about ramps, slopes, rough ground, or obstacles? And finally, what's your destination? Can you get close enough? Can you pull straight in? Will any maneuvers affect your stability? Is the area free of overhead hazards like power lines, pipes, or ventilation?